Another Finding Your Wednesday Why. My name's Evan Messman, and I am the Chief Gratitude Officer and founder of Pro Attitudes. And I'm here today to find out really how I can help you find your why and help you increase your energy, decrease your stress level, and help you find a way to live a life that's healthier. Live a life that the dream that you always dreamed of, because part of it is today there's so much out there that brings us down. What we need to do is to learn how to build our attitude muscle. That attitude muscle is really important. I call it the attitude muscle. It's really four different components of our mind that if we strengthen them, just like if you strengthen your bicep with progressive resistance, you strengthen these, you will change and change for good. One choice at a time, one action at a time. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, today I wanted to see how many of you out there are having a hard time just with any change in your life. I know change can be hard, especially big change. So, for those of you that are out there, share with me a yes or a no, and a Y or an N. Yes, I'm having a hard time with change, or no, everything's fine. If you can, let me know whether you're seeing this live with a hashtag live, or if you're watching it on replay, hashtag replay. Okay, so part of what I want to do is be able to understand what kind of challenges you're having. A lot of times people don't understand that change is hard just because we are living in a human condition where we create only one thing at a time that we can focus on. People like to multitask. People, when they change is something that's new, right? So when you're multitasking or you're trying to add something new, it is not how our brain works. There are three real components that you have to ask yourself when you're changing. I always ask people that I work with, what's the behavior, what's the technique, and what's the attitude that you have? Now, that's towards the problems that you have. Then you need to think about, well, what behaviors do you need? What techniques do you need to learn? And what attitude do you need to cultivate in order for you to be able to do that? So let's take a deeper dive into that. What is behavior? It's what you do every day. It's you get up, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you go to work. Everything that you do in your life, I would call them behaviors, but they're also habits, right? When you get up and you think about brushing your teeth, you don't even think about it. Why? Because your brain has taken the routine of brushing your teeth when you first learned how to brush your teeth and narrowed it down into the lowest common denominator, which is a habit, so that the brain really doesn't have to work on it. Why? Because the brain uses an awful lot of energy, and we're here to either procreate or survive. That's what our genetics have said as an animal. Our basic, if you get it down to that basic denominator of those two specific needs. Now, there are lots of other hierarchy of needs when you look at it, but if we focus on those two that drive us, if we need to change, we need to learn something new. We have to learn it, whether it's, let's say you want to lose weight, you got to learn how to eat differently, you got to learn how to shop differently. You may have to learn how to exercise or get components of exercise in there. If you need to learn a new job, it's training, right? And then there's an onboarding, and then there's a whole period of time where you have to learn how to do that job. When you learn a new language, right? Children, when they're infants, they learn the language, and it takes them an awful long time to learn it. But yet we're so hard on ourselves when it comes to change, because we think, I failed because you were on or off with a new habit. So part of this is understanding to be a little less critical of yourself and focusing on what behaviors you need to be consistent with, and then hold yourself accountable to those, or find an accountability partner The second thing is the technique. Now, behavior is a part of it. That's what you're doing. The technique is how you do it. To give you a great example, technique would be like a recipe. You have a certain technique of cooking. Maybe your grandma knows how to cook a really great sauce or gravy, as they call it for Italians, that tomato sauce. But when you make it, it just doesn't taste the same. It can be that way with anything that you cook. In French culinary school, they make you cook that recipe over and over and over again, following the recipe until you've done it. I don't know if it's 14 or I've heard 24 times before you're even allowed to alter the recipe. That is to create new habits and create new neural pathways. It's good advice to practice, practice, practice. That's technique. But the last part of this is attitude. And attitude, hey, my business is called Pro Attitudes. Attitude's about 90% of this. Because if you think you can, you can. But if you think you can't, you're stuck. So part of this is, where does mindset come from? Well, those belief systems are deep-seated in you. They're learned from a very young age. And with those lessons that you've learned and imprinted into your brain, you live your life according to those scripts. You follow a certain path based on your experiences. And sometimes those experiences are uplifting and they're effective and they're motivating. But other times you may find that when you do something, you might find that those scripts in your head might be saying, don't do that. Or it'll say, you can't do that. Or it might be saying, you're a fool for trying that. And where did that come from? Again, it comes from the scripts that you created where you learned as a child. And whether for good or bad, they're there to protect you. So part of mindset, the work that I do and the work that you may need to do, is to teach yourself how. How do you actually reprogram those new neural pathways? And it all happens one choice at a time. And once you make those choices, to reinforce them, to constantly reinforce that new neural pathway so that you can let go, literally let go of the old habits and develop the new ones. While you're developing those new habits, though, it takes a lot of brain power. And that's something that you need to realize, that you only focus on really one new habit at a time. When you do more than that, it's going to end up compounding the challenge. And hey, you might do well with it, but when you're struggling, what I want you to do is to think about focusing on just one thing, maybe for the week, and then also shrink the change. If you're trying to change, think about making it as small as possible. Motivation comes from success. If you're successful at getting out and going for a 5-minute walk, you might say, well, 5 minutes doesn't do anything. But hey, you do that every day. It's the day in and the day out habit. And then you add a minute every day to that 5-minute walk. In 30 days, you've got 35-minute walk. You might keep going until you say, I got enough. That's it. That's all I can handle. But now you continue doing that. That's very different than not even starting because it was just too big of a task to say, hey, I'm going to go out there and run 3 miles. Well, start small. So remember, it takes the intersection of your behaviors, the what you do, techniques, which is how you do it, and your attitude, which is why you do it. Where those three intersect, you actually create success. One choice at a time. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to learn more, or you did enjoy it, give me a thumbs up. And you know what? I really want to hear from you guys about what more you'd like to hear about, what you'd like to learn. In the comments, I'm going to put in a link if you guys would like to pinpoint some of your major challenges, lifestyle challenges, eating habits. There's 7 different areas that I look at in my free assessment. Just for watching this, I'm going to offer you the assessment, and then you can follow the emails and you can jump on a call with me so that I can review with you. So take a look at that. I just put it in the chat. And thank you for joining me today. I look forward to the next Wednesday Finding Your Why, which will be at 1 o'clock Eastern Time next Wednesday. Go make it a great day. And remember, change happens one choice at a time.